Yes. Maybe should I then?
Yes, please.
Yes, because I think it could be nice to have some kind of an introduction also to this session, because these are more on the cross-cutting aspects of the call scope of the co-funded call, and we also have it in the additional calls. We have it is about the responsible research and innovation. It is about human capacity building, and it's also about communication and dissemination. And these aspects are expected to be integrated into all the projects. It is said that responsible research and innovation need to be addressed. It is said that training and mobility activities is expected to be duly evidenced and described, as well as that all proposals must include a communication plan. And these aspects were also embedded and included in the midterm reporting. So now I think it will be very interesting to hear from the responsible work package leaders on each of these areas. Research or RRI is an ethics, is not a work pack. Yes, it is a work package in fact, but not to the same extent as the others, because it was included after the evaluation process. We had not included it ourselves, but the Commission requires it. And I think it's very sensible to do so. And then we had appointed an independent ethics advisor. She is stated as RCN in the agenda, but in fact works at the NTNU, the university there. She will not talk now. It's as you said, it is Siggy that is expected to talk first. Is he now here?
I haven't seen Siggy, but I saw Issei.
Yeah, maybe it's Issei.
Hi, yes. Actually, Siggy is supposed to be here. He has the slides, so maybe we will give him a minute. But we will present together, though.
That's fine, Issei. I'm going to send him a quick email just in case I can get him.
Good. If not, we can take another presentation first, but that is also an possibility.
Yeah.
Bernardo, would you be? No, there we go. Siggy is here. Fantastic. So Siggy and Issei, the floor is yours.
Oh, so we are starting.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm just going to share the screen then. I thought there was another presentation before.
Yes, but that would have started at 1:45. So you started one.
Just let me see. I need to open up my presentation. Yeah. So we are getting there, I guess.
Yes.
Yes.
And you can see the full screen.
No, the black with the two. There we go.
Okay. And I will just swap.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
All right. So yeah, I'm just gonna give a brief, and me and Issei will give a brief presentation of the communication work package in BlueBio. In a way, this is a repetition of a similar presentation we had during the kickoff almost 2 years ago. So it may look quite familiar to most of you, I guess. So this is just another introductional picture here. Well, the communication is of course a big issue, and we have heard it during the presentation this morning and also yesterday, that some of the evaluators have been asking about the dissemination of the projects, the websites, etc. So this is this is an important aspect of all projects. And I mean, if we just think about good communication, what is it? It identifies and sets clear communication objectives, which that is important. And you need to target the audience that you are looking for, or even go beyond the project's own community. So dissemination is not just something that happens among the scientists or those who are working on the projects. You need to reach out to the industry and also to the general public. And to do this, you need the right medium and the right means to achieve your targets there. This goes in a way without saying. This is just general information here about communication. So what have we done in BlueBio? And the next slide will give us some idea about what we have been doing within the BlueBio itself. And Issei, who is our social manager, will now explain this picture here.
Yes, thank you, Siggi, and hi everyone. We have of course some active communication in the project. We have the BlueBio webpage, and we have some social media as well. In 2020, the social media communication was, like you can see there, you can see the numbers of the outreach and engagement there. But in 2021, we decided we wanted to do a little better and put emphasis on creating content, gaining more followers, and just increasing the total engagement of the content we were putting out. So as you can see, we did that successfully, but we believe we can do a bit better. And Siggi, if you would go to the next slide. Yep. Then I would like to say that with your inputs, like you have been referring to in your presentations, people have been asking and such. So we are very open in the dissemination part of the project for your inputs. So if you have any content ideas, like if you want to present your project, for example, some of you may have noticed that we have been doing that every week on social media. In the past year, we did it for several weeks, as many weeks as the projects were. If you want to give us any news about your project, if anything remarkable happens, or if just maybe some fun facts related to your project or related to the topic your project is about, then feel free to contact us, and we can either make some, this is not just about social media, of course, this is also about the web page. If you want a piece of content there, it's just contact us and we can do it. I also wanted to put emphasis on that if you want to post something on your own media, for example, social media, we would very much like it if you would tag us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and put the correct hashtags as well. Then we can count it as progress when we are analyzing the outreach data. So thank you.
Okay, so I'll just take over, and a part of our identity in BlueBio is to have our own templates, our own logos, and also, of course, in any publication of your project's results, you need to put in a kind of an acknowledgement from BlueBio and the European Union, and the text is there on the slide. So this is very important, and in a way, we would like to see all when you are presenting your projects, information about the projects, if you could use the right logos, the right templates, for example, like the one we are using now in PowerPoint. This is our official PowerPoint template, etc. So if we just go into where do we find the guidelines. Where do we find these logos? And this is our website. And if we just go into it, I hope you see the website on the screen. Yeah. And under this this part here, related information, there's a communicate part called communicating your project. In there, you have the general guidelines from EU about how to communicate, what does communication involve, etc., and some documents from EU. And also there is one document here, which are our own guidelines, the guidelines of BlueBio. And if we click here, and well, unfortunately, you see that there's an error here. So, because in a way, we have our own partner website. So you need to log in at the partner website. And so what I do, if I log in here, and as you can see, you just need to add your user ID and password once. It just keeps it after that. So, and I go back again into my presentation. Now, the trick is to find it. Just go back in here, and I should be able to download the document that I was mentioning because I'm already logged in now. The other way to access this document is just to be, you will also find it on the partner domain and the project manager's domain. Yeah, so this is about the guidelines and the templates. And then if we continue here to the next slide, and I just need to find a way to do it, then as you see, I mean, the guidelines are this toolkit that we call as deliverable 5.2. And there is this internal page on the BlueBio, and all of you, all the project managers, they should have access there. And they were given access, and of course, if you have lost your password, you can ask for it again. But we have to know. I mean, we cannot give access to just anybody. So it has to be an authorized person or the project manager that is asking for the access there. Yes, so that is it. And as I said, guidelines are there. Communication is important, as well as the dissemination. And also remember that on these guidelines, you will find the right logos, the right templates, as the one we are using here, for example, on PowerPoint. And so going ahead should be fairly easy there. And that's it. So thanks. And of course, we are ready to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sigurður and Issei. So a lot of available material can be used. Especially, it's important to, as Sigurður said, to add this EU, both the logo and the text, to state that you have that is where the funding is coming from. Even though it comes through your national funder to each of the partners in the project, the total funding is EU funding. So that is extremely important also on all your publications, that the project number is used. Okay, I can't see any questions in the chat, but of course you can reach out to Siggy and Issei in the chat as well if you have any detailed questions. And especially, as Issei said, remember to tag us in your social media. This way also Issei can know about all of your social media handles and can follow you so she can stay up to date. This is also important for the GPA Ocean social media. So we also can share good news, especially things like meetings, exchanges, publications, all of this. Okay, perfect. Then I think we can move on to the next presentation, which is Bernardo Patti, who is our task leader on human capacity building in BlueBio, and a very important part of our ERANET. Bernardo, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Ingeborg, for introducing me. And I'm going to share my screen, first of all. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes. Soon in presentation mode, I'm sure.
I hope so. It's okay?
It's now with the notes, so you need to change
Sorry.
impostazioni di visualizzazione. Too many sets. The top
Okay.
menu in the middle.
Yeah.
To see.
I also have a problem because, okay.
And then you choose
The
top. Yes, the top one. There we go. Perfect.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your introduction, for introducing me, Ingeborg. Yes, I'm in charge of task 7.3, which is about human capacity building. Today I'm going to show you the main results from the analysis of questionnaire on human capacity building activities embedded in the midterm reports. This analysis is intended to support the monitoring and the evaluation system of the BlueBio projects, at least as far as concerns the human capacity building activities. However, the general goal, I want to stress this, of this questionnaire was to share and possibly to also to raise the awareness about, among the project coordinators about the role that the funded project, the important role that the funded project may have for enhancing the human capacity building of people involved in their partnerships. Before starting the presentation of my analysis on midterm reports, I would like to thank Abraham, who is in charge with Esther Chacon for the follow-up of BlueBio project, for his assistance and collaboration, in particular for sharing with me the midterm reports, so facilitating my work today. So this is the list of the 19 projects that were funded in the first BlueBio call, their distribution in priority areas, something that we saw yesterday, and their distribution by starting date. And this slide, there are the two distribution of, they are about funded project in terms of total personnel on the left and person amounts on the right. As you can see, most of the projects have a staff of less than 25 people, while projects are more evenly distributed in terms of dedicated man-months. The first impact of COVID-19 pandemic on human capacity building is of course in terms of reduced mobility of personnel, and this can be seen by comparing the pie chart on the right, which represent the current midterm situation, with the pie chart on the left, which shows the results of the questionnaire that were filled out by project coordinators at the time of the kickoff meeting in June 2020, about 2 years ago. This is about the qualification of personnel involved in human capacity building activities, comparing the current situation on the right here to what has been planned in project proposal on the left. There is a general reduction in the engagement of researchers and technicians here, and whereas there was an increase in the number of projects involving graduated people and PhD students. As far as concern specific human capacity building activities that were carried out, the most important planned category on the left, when embedded in the project proposal, was short-term, medium-term mobility inside the partnership. Here, followed by the organization of training courses and/or webinars. Both these categories show a significant decrease. There was instead a large increase in the participation to online training courses and in scholarships granted to students, both PhDs and the graduated students. In particular, it's worth noting that the high percentage of projects now entailing scholarships to PhD students, almost 70%. It was about 30% at the kickoff meeting. This can be interpreted as a direct effect of pandemic situation and limitation connected to them, as a compensation for the decline.
Si un cas l'havies vist o
Jo pensava que estava acostant.
Sorry, as a compensation of the decline in mobility. I mean, we have less short-term mobility, less events as far as concerned training course, but more time and person engaged in online training courses. The following slides are about the distribution of units of personnel involved in human capacity building for both the public and the private components of project partnerships. In particular, this slide is about researchers in the public sector. Compared to the planet involved on the left, the maximum number of engaged people decreased from 13 to 9. It is worth noting, in addition, that just 50% of project coordinators indicated their researchers as target to human capacity building initiatives in their midterm evaluation reports. It was 100% at the kickoff meeting. This is for PhD students in the public sector. There was a general increase in their engagement in training and mobility activities from 64 to 75% of projects engaged this category of personnel. Also, the total number increased from 23 to 32 units in total. Actually, the absolute number of PhD students involved in human capacity building might be even larger, considering that the questionnaire is based from just 16 of the 19 projects, because some evaluation reports were not yet available. And the other categories, that is technicians, graduates, and other, are less represented, but unlike technicians, showed a slight increase. And concerning now the private sector, the private component of the partnerships, as already seen for the public sector, the category researchers was negatively impacted. Researchers were target of human capacity building activities in just 25% of funded projects, and this percentage was almost 60% at the time of the kickoff meeting. So a big reduction. In contrast, in the private component of project partnerships, the engagement of PhD students in training and mobility did not deviate significantly from what had been planned, even though it affected just 2 of the funded projects for a total of 8 units of personnel. Also, the engagement of the category technicians they generally reflect the planned activities. In contrast, the categories graduated and other were negatively affected. However, as in the public sector, the involvement in human capacity building of these categories is generally quite limited. This slide shows the relative composition of manpower involved in human capacity building between the public and private sector, here indicated in blue and orange respectively, for each one of the 19 projects. every row represent, every bar represent a project. Compared to the planned activity, the private sector appeared to be much more impacted, and as the engagement of people in a human capacity building decreased from 34 to 23%. Here you can see the relative importance of each category of personnel in the public sector, as indicated in the questionnaire filled out by the project coordinators at the time of the kickoff meeting on the left, and the current situation on the right, as shown in the midterm evaluation reports. Each color here represents a different kind of personnel involved. The category of researchers, which was dominant, the blue one, which was dominant, the work program of funded project, is now actually partially substituted by the categories graduated and PhD students. The private sector, however, was much more impacted. As in many projects, the planned human capacity building activities were cancelled. That is, no personnel was involved in training and mobility activity. You can see the missing row on the right. However, the project where the training mobility was carried out in this project, very few actually, there was a slight increase in the engagement of technicians. Here there is the relationship between the level of people engagement, the human capacity building, and total budget of project, both in terms of units of personnel, both top panels here, and in terms of person months, bottom panels. Each point represents a single project. As expected, the impact of reduced training and mobility activities is more evident when expressed in terms of working time in months, here in the bottom right panel. This is about the certification for trainees. So even though more than 50% of projects plan to deliver at some time of certification to people involved in training mobility, most of activity linked to possible certification for trainees appear to be ongoing, currently still in progress.
Bernardo, 2 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you. The same applies to the use of larger scale facilities, which are, however, is quite widespread across projects, as the use of larger scale facilities is embedded in the work plan of approximately 50% of them. By the way, this is more or less the same percentage that was found in project select in the first edition of code, which will be object of another presentation by tomorrow. And finally, the training mobility activities are expected to be promoted in dedicated web portals by most of projects, more than 60% of the total. However, this promotion did not start yet. It's something that is going to in progress, appear to be in progress. This is my last slide with the simplified conclusion from what can be what emerged from the analysis of the midterm evaluation reports. The main issue for human capacity building was the pandemic, which, of course, which affected in particular the mobility of researchers and technicians, so reducing their training. This reduction was somewhat compensated by the increase in the engagement of students in their online training activities. The impact of pandemic was, however, greater for the private companies involved in the partnerships. About this point, I guess, however, that at the end of pandemic emergency should quickly improve the current situation. At least what I hope. And about the second point, that is the promotion of human capacity building in BlueBio project. It is part of course, this is part of my job at task 7.3, which aims at facilitating implementation of action related to human capacity building, and also to addressing specific training needs. In this context, a preliminary survey was carried out with the questionnaire sent to the coordinators of the first additional call, which contained some extra questions about the training needs of funded projects. But further consideration are expected to arise from the coordinators of projects funded in the first call as well, of course. And to this aim, specific meetings are going to be organized with them in the next week. And that's all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Bernardo. I also wanted to, so yes, a question from Arne, please.
Yes, Bernardo, I'm sorry. I found in your presentation that I misreported. So I've mistaken training and mobility. We had mobility. Are you interested in fixing those issues? I'm sorry for that.
Of course, yes. Of course, yes. Actually, in my presentation, there was no specific relation to one particular project or another. They were just listed in alphabetic order by acronym of the project. But of course, we are going, as I told you at the end of my presentation, we are going to organize some specific meetings with the project coordinators of the first of the project fund under the first call as well, in order to get additional information about how human capacity building activities have been addressed in the project.
Exactly. I just wanted to thank you, Bernardo. Thank you, Arne. I just want to say that to now, for the first time, officially invite you to what we, for the moment, are calling the e-coffee meeting, like we have done before, but on human capacity building. So quite soon, I've written it in the chat as well, quite soon you will receive an invitation to 2 hours on Wednesday, 6th of April, where we will discuss human capacity building for the BlueBio projects, both some input in what has been done, some success stories, discuss challenges, and also to sort of help you reach the goals that you have set and that we have set for human capacity building in BlueBio. They will be, it's like a round table like we've done before. We share experiences and learn from each other in the projects. But then I think, I thank you again, Bernardo, and then I want to give the floor to Siri Granum Carson. There you are, fantastic. She is our ethics advisor and will advise us on exactly that right now. Thank you, Siri.
Thank you so much, Ingeborg. Let me see. Do you hear me okay? Let's see. And you see my screen?
Yeah, not in presentation mode yet, though.
Let's see if I can manage that as well. Okay, hello everyone. It's nice to be virtually present here at this meeting, at least. I have met many of you before in BlueBio meetings, but many of you from the projects I have only been in email contact with as the ethics advisor of the co-fund program. So it's too bad that we didn't get together in Lisbon this time, but at least I'm happy to be here with you virtually and talk a little bit about. So the title I was given was Ethics in the BlueBio projects, but I mean, we already had our exchanges when it comes to the sort of reports and so on. So I will talk a little bit more general about what I think is important to keep in mind when we talk about ethics in this kind of work. So what is research ethics all about? Because I have a feeling it tends to sort of disappear in all the tables to be and the boxes to be ticked and so on. It's easy to start thinking that research ethics is about limiting what we can do and keeping it within some frames. But I think it's much more productive to think about research ethics as an enabler to produce good research, because good research is always about both the quality and the sort of ethics about the project and it's something that we need to share between us as a responsibility between the researchers individually, the research communities, the research groups, and so on, and the institutions. So I will be in this project. I'm kind of representing the overall institution of the co-fund, but the real ethics work is not what I'm doing by overseeing it. It's what you are doing in your project from on a day-to-day basis. Because there is, of course, when we do research, there is the possibility of damage to the environment, to people, to animals. It also a more general danger of trust of damaging the general trust in science. So we need to also keep that in mind when working with ethics. And this goes beyond just following relevant laws and regulations. So this means that even if you tick all the boxes, a research project might still be unethical in that sense that research is always pushing the limits, it's always going beyond what has already been done. So as researchers, we are always responsible for reflecting on the morality, on the norms, on the possible outcomes of our projects, even beyond the existing rules and regulations, and to contribute also to good governance of these things. So I'm a member of the National Committee for Research Ethics in Science and Technology in Norway, and in this committee we separate between the three levels of research ethics, where the kind of goes from the internal norms between researchers towards how we deal with people and groups, animals out that we are affecting, and to the broader social issues. So I'll go just briefly through these levels. So first of all, we have the science internal norms, the kind of things that we do this because this is how we do it. So we know, so we can try, we can test, we can see that things are done in a good way. It's something that we regulate basically through training of researchers, human capacity building, as you just heard about, but it also sort of through peer reviews and these kinds of institutions that we have in place to make sure that science is done in the right way. But increasingly, we are also getting more and more laws and regulations that keep this in place. These are the kind of issues dealing with cheating, misconduct, the big three FFP, falsification, fabrication, and plagiarism. But then also the more kind of in between questionable research practices having to do with co-authorships that are not quite as they should be, solemnization of publications so that you publish in tiny bits in different papers rather than in one, and these kind of things where you can always discuss, is this unethical or borderline or okay? Often these good old norms, often referred to as the Ethos of Science by Robert Merton from his 1942 book, referred to as the kudos norms, are often sort of brought up to sort of just the overall norms that govern research quality: communalism, universalism, disinterestedness, originality, and organized skepticism as kind of guidelines for how we ought to do science. Plagiarism is one example that often comes up, where you see the gray zones between just a bit of sloppy work and forgery in a sense, but the crucial point is if you give a false impression that you have created something when you actually have taken it from somewhere else. And this is something that is it's not we tend to think of this thing as something we actively do, but it might also be, as the Norwegian research ethics law suggests, it might also be negligence. So you might also be, it's also unethical to do sloppy work in that sense. It's not necessarily only when you deliberately try to fabricate or plagiarize that you are in that sense morally to blame. Okay, so the second level has to do with how we have an effect on persons, groups, and also animals. And this kind of effects, this kind of protection of these groups are regulated through different conventions, codes, laws, ethical committees, and so on. It's often use these 4 basic ethical principles that's taken from medical ethics, that you should make sure that you do good, that your research is for good, that you do no harm, that you think about the norms of justice and the respect of autonomy in your work. But these basic ethical principles comes from medical ethics and are normally we think about these protection things in terms of protecting people or groups of people, but it's also about protection of animals. And there's a big movement there when it comes to the importance of welfare of animals within research ethics, which is also a challenge in these kind of systems that we are in with this co-fund, because we are moving between different countries, and we have the overall EU regulations, and we have the different national regulations that we need to take into account. But when it comes to, so I'm not going into this animal ethics issues here. I'd rather say a little bit about protection of privacy, which is also a challenge in this kind of projects going over different nations. But it's important to think that one thing is the regulations, but and another thing is the basic ethical norm that is behind it. That why is this protection of privacy so important? Why is it so important to protect personal information? Well, it's a fundamental human right to have that respected. It's linked to the autonomy issue that we said in the last slide. Is the link to human dignity is also directly, of course, a risk of harm to individuals. This risk of harm to individuals or groups must always be balanced with the potential benefits to groups of people, or even also individuals, or to society at large. There are, of course, new technologies that bringing up new challenges in this area: data mining techniques, big data analytics, artificial intelligence, and so on. So there's been a lot of development also in regulations here. We all know about the GDPR as the overarching legal framework of in the EU, but then you have also these different national protection, data protection laws, and also regulations. So there might be also, I mean, there's a lot of, one might think that this would cover everything, but there are also still here gray zones where it's sometimes difficult to know, because there are different data are differently regulated when they are publicly available than when they are private. But what about, for example, social media? Is that is legally still mostly defined as private, sharing private information, and also it's often or it's defined as public information, so that the US researchers might just grab whatever you find on social media and use it for your research purposes. But on the other hand, we know that people often act as if they are in a private room when they are in social media. So the ethics come in over and beyond what is the legal regulation. So the third level, the kind of most overarching level, having to do with the social responsibility of research, is what is often referred to as responsible research and innovation, which is also an important part of the BlueBio co-fund. It's often also referred to as broad research ethics, and about what really is, what are we doing the research for? Trying to remember, I mean, we have all the boxes to be ticked and all the grants to be won and so on, but in the end, what is the social goals of research? So it has to do with, of course, the big overall questions about directing research towards the sustainable development goals. How do we make sure that our research is leading to a general social good rather than the opposite? Developing new technologies. There's always a possibility that this might be used for both for good or bad. Sorry, Ingeborg, did you say something?
No, but I was going to say 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes. Okay, no problem. And then yeah, so in RRI, it's about sort of making room in research to reflect on these kind of issues. It's about including different interest groups that will be affected. It's about anticipating what kind of negative outcome or positive outcome your research might have in the long run. It's about being responsive in the sense of being willing and able to change direction when you see that your research is moving in the wrong direction and so on. So mission-oriented research, that is a big and important part of the new framework program in EU, is one way of trying to sort of implement this way of thinking into research. And of course, for the BlueBio, this mission to restore our oceans and waters by 2030 can work as an important guideline, something that we all might think about whether our research actually contribute in the bigger way to this. So we think about the thing like climate change, for example. We all know how big a challenge this is for our oceans, but on the other hand, the oceans is often also brought up as the possibility to address or to limit or to mitigate or to deal with the problems that is brought up by climate change, and all the other challenges we see in our oceans that I know from my superficial knowledge of your project that you all contribute to this great mission. So that was really what I wanted to say here to you today, but I'm more than willing to take your questions and comments when it comes to more sort of direct thing having to do with your project, and also what I've been presenting here. Thank you.
Thank you, Siri. If we have any questions, please, as Siri said, raise your hand or write it in the chat. I'm happy to hear that. You're happy with the project, Siri.
Absolutely.
And if not, I thank you again, Siri, for your presentation. I will stop the recording.